Alright guys, so I'm back again with another deck profile from Cardfight Vanguard Digger Days on the Nintendo Switch. This time we'll be doing version 1 of our Stoicheia Magnolia deck, which as always version 1 is everything up through the first additional card pass, so through the booster set 7. And as you can see here, this is actually the first of 2 different Magnolia builds we are going to be doing. This one focuses on the grade 3 version of Magnolia exclusively. We have an entirely separate build here based around the grade 4 Magnolia Elder that we'll be going through later. But yeah, this one focuses on grade 3 Magnolia and takes advantage of some of the support we got in set 7 that focuses on persona riding, as well as some of the older support for Magnolia that is name locked specifically to this form. So anyway, as always, we will be going through the deck and then we'll show it off in one card fight so you can see it in action. So first, starting with our ride deck, we of course have our grade 0 starter, which is Sylvanhorn Beast Lotte. So when it's rolled upon, if you win a second, draw a card. Same starter skill as always, with some absolutely adorable artwork. Next up, our grade 1 is Sylvanhorn Beast Chorus. So his auto ability, when this unit is rolled upon by Sylvanhorn Beast Lattice, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a grade 2 or less unit card, call it to rearguard circle, and if it isn't, put it into your soul. So this ability lets you superior call your overtrigger, and I'm only half joking there. But yeah, this ability is a top deck call, so sometimes you'll get something good, and sometimes you'll get something you don't really want to call, like a trigger or a perfect guard or whatever. So it is just kind of luck based, and if you do end up getting an order or a grade 3, it ends up going to your soul, so you at least get a resource out of it. But anyway, he also has a continuous ability when he's on your back row rearguard circle that says during the battle of this unit attack, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So this is the only copy of this card we're running, but we do have ways to revive it from the drop zone. So this thing can occasionally end up on rearguard, so you can take advantage of that skill in those situations. And of course, Magnolia's entire thing is letting your back row units attack. So if he becomes an attacker, he can get a little power boost. So next for our grade 2, we have Sylvanhorn Beast Lattice. So his auto ability, when this unit is rolled upon by Sylvanhorn Beast King Magnolia, you can Soul Blast 1 to reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is a unit card, call it to rearguard circle, and if it isn't, put it into your hand. So this is another top deck call. It does cost a Soul Blast, but it is a little bit better than Chorus's, since if you end up pulling an order, it does go to your hand. So you will get a +1 out of this no matter what, but again, you do run the risk of calling something you would rather not call. But again, he has another auto ability when he's on back row rearguard circle that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets power plus 10,000 until the end of that battle. So once again, this is the only copy of this we're running, but it can end up getting revived from the drop, so you can occasionally take advantage of that power gain. So then lastly for our grade 3, we of course have Sylvanhorn Beast King Magnolia. So his auto ability says at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and until end of turn that unit can attack from the back row and gets power plus 5,000. And if you persona road this turn, you can choose 3 rear guards instead of 1. So Magnolia lets you turn your back row units into attackers, which on persona ride turns means you can get up to potentially 6 attacks in one turn. So very offensive deck, very powerful. It does require you to get your persona ride in order to take full advantage of that. So we are running some other cards in the deck that allow us to make that persona ride as consistent as possible. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First, our grade 3s, we of course are running our 3 additional copies of Magnolia for that very important persona ride reason. So next for the grade 3s, we do have 1 copy of Sylvanhorn Beast Elorante. So it's got an auto ability when this unit attacks. If there are 2 or more units in front of this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle. And if there are 3 or more units, Soul Charge 1. So, how useful this card is kind of depends on what sort of columns your opponent ends up building. Since this card does check the number of units in front of it, so that includes both your units and your opponent's. So if you call this to your back row, and your opponent has a full column, and you have another rearguard in front of it, then you can get the soul charge. So it can be a helpful soul engine. If you're not worried about the soul charge and you just want to get the power gain, you can always pop this in your back row center rearguard, and it'll be guaranteed to have a minimum of 2 units in front of it at all times, since both your Vanguard and your opponent's Vanguard will be in front of it. So it's a little bit situational, but I am mostly just running it because it's an elephant, and I think elephants are cool. So next for the grade 3s, we have 2 copies of Benevolent Maiden Aura Sereth. So her auto ability, when this unit is placed on a rearguard circle from hand, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1, discard the top 3 cards of your deck, choose a card from your drop called the rearguard circle if it is a grade 2 or less card, and put it into your hand if it has the same card name as your Vanguard. So this card has 2 important uses, first of which is just recycling your Persona Rides. If you Persona Ride Magnolia and you've got another Magnolia in your soul, you can call this to Soul Blast it out and then add it back to your hand to ensure your Persona Ride for the next turn. Alternatively, if you don't need the other Persona Ride, you can just use it to revive a grade 2 or lower from your drop. So that'll help fill in your field. Of course, filling in your field is very important, since in order to get the 6 attacks off of Magnolia's field, you actually need 6 units out on your board. So it can fill up your field or recycle your Persona Rides, whatever you need it to do at the moment. So that's all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First of all, we are running 3 copies of Sylvan Horn Beast Daminaru. So its auto ability, when this unit is placed on a rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is Sylvan Horn Beast King Magnolia, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose one of your rearguards, and until end of turn, that unit can attack from the back row and gets power plus 5,000. Then it has a second auto ability that says once per turn, when this unit is chosen by your Vanguard's effect, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this card is very important, especially on turn 3, since you won't be able to get your Persona Ride that turn, obviously. You can call this and enable one of your other back row units to attack, as well as the one that you would be able to grant that ability off of Magnolia skill. So this can make your turn 3 have a maximum of 5 attacks. And also it can work as a backup. If you somehow don't get your Persona Ride, you can call this and still get 5 attacks instead of the normal 6. So it can be very helpful in those situations for your offense. And of course, if it is sitting on your back row and it is chosen by Magnolia's skill, then it gets a free extra 5k. So next we are running 3 copies of Sylvan Horn Beast Gyunosla. So he's got an auto ability when he's on back row rearguard circle that says when this unit attacks, you can Counterblast 1, choose one of your other rearguards, and it gets this unit's power until end of turn. So this is a very useful card. It lets you have it be an attacker and a booster at the same time, basically, since obviously your back row units are not going to be boosting if they are going to be attacking instead. So Gyunosla can grant its power to another one of your units. So if you power him up as much as possible off of Magnolia's skill, off of your Persona Ride potentially, off of any trigger effects you get, what have you, you can stack as much power on him as possible and then double your mileage out of it by granting that power to another one of your attackers as well. So very, very useful card. So next we're running 2 copies of Sylvan Horn Beast Inbar. So his auto ability, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle or put on guardian circle, if your Vanguard is Sylvan Horn Beast King Magnolia, this unit gets power plus 5,000, shield plus 5,000 until end of turn. And then his second auto ability, when he's on back row rearguard circle, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you may return this unit to your hand. So this card is an 8k base, but his first skill grants him 5 when he's called, so he'll be at a minimum of 13. And the basic idea with this card is to just call it to rearguard and let it gain power. And then if it's in your back row, you can bounce it back to your hand at the end of the turn to guard with it during your opponent's next turn. or if it's in your front row, you could just intercept with it normally. And then when you guard with it, it can also increase its shield by 5k as well. So it can be both an offensive and a defensive card. So pretty versatile. So next we're running 2 copies of Seven-Horned Beast Gabreg. So his auto ability says when your other unit in the same column as this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. And then you choose all of your opponent's rear guards, and for the battle that this unit attacked this turn, your opponent cannot call cards with the same grade as the chosen units from their hand to Guardian Circle. So this card not only powers itself up, but it also gets a pretty powerful guard restrict ability. Now, it is dependent on what your opponent has called out to the field, and most decks don't really call grade 0 rearguards most of the time. There's a handful that do. Basargra has Trick Moon, and you know, any Stoicheia deck that uses plant tokens or whatever. But most of the time you're not going to be able to block grade 0s with this, so they'll probably still be able to guard with their triggers. However, if they do have a grade 1 out, you can block them from using Sentinels. So that alone is pretty good, especially if you can combine this with Gyunosla in order to increase Gabreg's power to a very large amount that can make for a very devastating attack that they potentially can't block. So lastly, for our grade 2s, we are running 3 copies of Seven-Horned Beast Alpin. So his auto ability, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Magnolia in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle for every 2 of your grade 2 or greater units. And if this unit gets power plus 10,000 or more by this effect at the end of that battle, you can bind this unit to countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. So this is your resource recovery card. It can also power itself up, which is helpful when it attacks. But it's mainly there just to refund those resources. You do have to bind it in order to do that, so it is a -1. But you get 2 resources out of it, which is pretty good. Especially since this deck can be pretty resource heavy in terms of both counter blasting and soul blasting. So, pretty important card. So that's all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First of all, we are running 4 copies of Seven-Horned Beast Serol. So his auto ability, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from deck or hand, if you have a Vanguard with Seven-Horned Beast in its card name, you can Soul Blast 1. To look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Magnolia and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this lets you dig for your Persona Ride copies. The only issue I have with this skill is that it does cost a Soul Blast 1, and it might whiff. If you check the top 5 and there's no Magnolia there, then you just used a resource to gain nothing. So it kind of depends on whether you want to use that first skill or not. If you're really desperate to find a Magnolia, you can take the risk. Or if you just got plenty of soul at the moment. But this card is mainly being ran for its second ability, which is a continuous skill. That says if you have a grade 3 Vanguard with Magnolia in its card name, your Persona Ride also increases the power of your back row units. So that's the key point of this card. It lets you turn your Persona Ride into powering up your entire field, which again is very helpful considering your back row is going to be attacking. So that can power up all of your attacks by an extra 10k. So that can be a very vital part of your offense. So the only other grade 1s we're running are our Sentinels. So we do have our 3 copies of Planar Prevent Dragon. Just your standard Perfect Guard. And then, of course, our last Sentinel is the 1 copy of our Blitzholder Elementaria Sanctitude, which, of course, you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. First, we have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So first for our crit triggers, we have 3 copies of Seven-Horned Beast Jackalope, which is just your vanilla crit trigger. Additionally, we are running 4 copies of Aspiring Maiden Alana. So she is the crit with a skill. Her auto ability at the end of the battle this unit boosted, you can put it into your soul. Choose one of your units and it gets power plus 2,000 until the end of that turn. So I do recommend running the crit with the skill. It's mainly just there though if you accidentally superior call it off of your ride line. You have a way to get rid of it while turning it into a resource instead of just calling over top of it. So that's mainly what that's there for. So next for our draw triggers, we do have 4 copies of Serene Maiden Lena. The draw with a skill says if your opponent's Vanguard's greater or greater, it gets shield plus 5,000. So 10k shield, draw trigger, definitely the one you want. So then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Sylvanhorn Beast Zlatterog, which is just your vanilla heal. As always, if you want to run the effect ones, you can. And then lastly for our over trigger, we have Source Dragon Deity of Blessings Bless Favor. So his additional effect, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets critical +1 till end of turn. All of your front row units get power plus 10,000. And if your damage zone has the same number of cards as your opponent's or more, choose a card from your damage zone and heal it. So it's a crit, front, draw, and heal trigger, all rolled into one. And of course, that 100 million power, if you happen to have Gyunosla out, you can give that power boost to him, and he can pass it to someone else, so you can actually get 200 million plus attacks out of it in one turn. So lastly for our grade 0s, we do have a grade 0 normal order that we are running 3 copies of Wild Intelligence. So you can play this card with a Counterblast 1 to discard 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 card with the same grade as your Vanguard or lower from your drop, and call it the Rearguard Circle. And if your Vanguard has Sylvanhorn Beastking Magnolia, you may choose up to 2 cards instead of 1. So this card lets you revive up to 2 cards from your drop zone. Very helpful in filling in your field. Like I said, getting the 6 units onto your field to get your full 6 attacks is very vital in this deck. So this card can be very useful in just reviving those units to fill out your field, especially if you're playing against a control deck or something that has depleted your field by a large degree. So anyway, that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight. And we'll fight against Noe. And we will be going second.
Stand up, Vanguard. Ore no turn. Draw. Ride. Skill発動. Turn end. Stand and draw.
Alright, so we'll drop us a roll to ride. Then use Lotte's skill to draw. And then we can just go ahead and attack.
No guard. Drive check. Damage check. Critical trigger.
He gets a crit trigger that he has wasted.
Power plus.
Which Vanguard always has fantastic artworks, but these Sylvanhorn beasts are just something else, man. All these arts and designs are just absolutely gorgeous. And we'll let that through. And we get a crit trigger. And he needs a trigger for that to even hit, so we'll let it through. And he did not get one. And you know what, we'll let that one through too. Alright, so let's drop Gyunosla to ride Lattice. Then we'll use Chorus's skill to superior call Alpin. Alright, so we got a good call off of it. And I think we'll just go ahead and attack with Lattice first. Then we're gonna attack with Alpin. And he intercepts, which I kind of figured he would do. So that'll let him put one of his dolls into the soul. Which I'm gonna check his soul real fast. Yeah, he's got both his dolls set up, so he's gonna get 5 attacks in this turn. So I think we will block this one. And then we'll let that one through. And we'll get a draw trigger. Nice. And now he can superior call his 2 dolls from the soul. So we will we'll let that one through. Gets a crit trigger. So that's gonna put us to 5. Oh, we got a heal trigger. Well, never mind. So we'll heal 1. And I'm actually going to give that power to Alpin. So then his 1 Rigard won't be able to hit us at all. And we will block that one. Alright, so let's drop. We'll drop that Alpin, I guess. To ride Magnolia. Then we can use Lattice's skill, the Soul Blast. And superior call Serol. Alright. So we got a good call there as well. And do we want to take the risk and use his skill? I got 1 in my hand already. I don't think I will. So let's see. We'll go ahead and call Araserith and use her skill to Counter Blast and Soul Blast. And then we can call someone from our drop. So let's call Inbar. And we'll put him back there, actually. Use his skill to gain an extra 5k. And Let's see, we'll go ahead and call Gabreg. And then we can attack with Magnolia first. And we get a crit trigger. So crit to Magnolia and power to Gabreg. Oh, and then we get a heal trigger on top. Nice. So we'll heal one. And we will give that power to Inbar. So now we can use Magnolia's skill to counterblast. And we'll let Inbar attack from the back row. So we'll go ahead and attack with... let's attack with Alpin first, actually. Use Alpin's skill to gain an extra 10k. And I'm actually not going to bind him right now, because we don't really need the resources. So now we'll attack with Inbar. And use Gabreg's skill to Soul Blast. And he'll gain 10k as well as Guard Restrict. Then we can use Inbar's skill to bounce him back to our hand. And then attack with Gabreg. And he does Guard with a grade 0 and an Intercept. And let's see. Check his soul. Yeah, he does have both of his dolls, so he'll get 4 attacks in. He couldn't fill in that other front row circle. So we'll let this one through. There goes one of our Magnolias. There, can call his dolls out again. So we'll go ahead and perfect guard that one. And we'll drop... we'll drop a heal, I guess. He gets a front trigger. And a heal on top of that, which he does get. Alright, so we'll let that one through. And then we'll guard that one. And then we draw our overture. Alright, so we can Persona Ride. Which will power up our whole field thanks to Serol. So we'll go ahead and call Inbar back again. And once again, he gains an extra 5k. And I think we're good to go. So now we can just attack with Magnolia, not boosted.
Vanguard にアタック
And he guards and intercepts.
ドライブチェックドライブチェックスキル発動
So now we can use Magnolia's skill.
マグノリアのスキル
And since we Persona Road, we can give our entire back row the ability to attack. So we'll attack with Serol first.
アタック
And he guards.
ガード
And then we'll attack with
バンガ
Inbar
ードにアタック
and use Gabrek's skill again to Soul Blast
発動
to give him 10k and guard restrict.
ノーガードまだだダメージチェック
And again, Inbar returns to our hand. So then we can attack with Aura
ア
Seraph
タック
and he guards.
ガード
So then, let's see, we'll go ahead and attack with
バンガー
Gabreg
ドにアタック
and he guards and intercepts.
ガード
So once again, he will have his soul set up.
スキル発動
So lastly, we'll attack with Alpin,
スキル発動
whose skill will give him another 10k.
プラス
And he perfect
ス
guards.
キル発動完全ガード
And once again, I'm actually not going to use his ability.
スタンド&ドロースキル発動コールだスキル発動バンガードにアタック
Alright, so once again, he'll get 4 attacks in this turn. So we'll go ahead and guard this one with Inbar,
スキル
and
発
he'll
動
gain an extra 5k shield.
パワープラスガードだバンガードにアタックスキル発動俺の本気だステリオ
And
リ
he
コール
calls his dolls from his soul once more. So we'll just perfect guard this to be on the safe side.
スキル発動
And drop our Seraph.
完全ガードドライブチェックドライブチェックフロントトリガー
He gets a front
パワ
trigger.
ープラスバンガードにアタック
Alright, so we'll guard that one with Alana.
ガードバンガードにアタック
And then guard that one with the Zlatarog.
ガードターンエンドスタンドドロー
Alright, so he's only got 3 cards in his hand, so we should be able to get him this time. So I'm actually going to declare final turn.
終わりだねファイナルターン
And then we'll Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
So we'll go ahead and call Dominaru.
コールだ
And I am going to use its skill to Soul
スキル
Blast.
発動
And giving the ability to attack will be redundant, but we will get an extra 5k out of it as well. So I'm actually going to target Gabrick with that, just so he can get a little power boost. So then we're good to go. So let's attack with Magnolia. Again, not boosted. Any gods and intercepts.
ガード
ドライブチェックドライブチェック
スキル発動
And then we can use Magnolia skill once again.
マグノリアのスキル
And target our entire back row,
パワープラス
which will trigger Daminaru's second skill to gain another 5k.
プラス
So we will go ahead and attack with Alpin,
ガードにアタックスキル
and then Alpin will gain 10k.
パワープラス
ノーガード
Oh, and he's gotta let it through.
ダメージチェック
And we got him with that, alright.
私の勝ちね
So there you go. That was our grade 3 Magnolia deck. I'll be back soon with the grade 4 Magnolia Elder variant of the deck. But until then, I guess that's all we got for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.